We're going to have a lot of fun here. We're going to learn some great information, and you will not be sorry that you made the effort to get out of bed early and come spend your time with all of us. So I just want to welcome all of you for being here today and being with us. We have some amazing speakers lined up for you guys. I think you're really going to get a lot of value out of the presentations that we have. We have an awesome presentation coming up here shortly from Dr. Ming Wang. We have an expert panel where we've got some local physicians here in Nashville. They're going to be sharing with you their secrets to success, what's worked for them and what hasn't. My name is Carla Pepis. I am the owner and founder of Fresh Collaboration. Basically, what we do is we are a digital marketing company. We help businesses succeed online, from everything from creating websites to social media, email marketing, anything that can help you get more patients, grow your business. Digital marketing specifically is something I'm very passionate about. Marketing of all type is certainly key. There's all different forms out there and they can all be effective, but for me, my specialty is medical marketing, particularly online and digital marketing. I've written 2 books on it, both of which were bestsellers on Amazon, just again to share with you how this is something I feel very strongly about, the power and impact you can have for your practice, for your business, utilizing the internet. So before we kind of dive too deep into today and talking about how do you make your medical practice a success, how do you make your business a success, we want to be sure that we all have the same basic understanding of what does it mean to be a success. Because that can mean different things for different people. And so if we want to be sure we're staying on track and we all are talking about the same goal today, we really want to be sure we understand what does it mean to be a success. If we look at how success is defined in the dictionary, it's actually defined as the favorable or prosperous terminations of attempts or endeavors to accomplish a goal. It's very interesting when you think about this. The termination of attempts is really what it means to be a success. So how do you become a success? Everyone who's in this room, I guarantee you, is a success at some part of your life. Whether it's your practice, whether the fact that you just completed and became a physician, whether it's the fact that you own a business, whatever it is, all of us have done things in our life to make us a success. And if I were to ask you to share with me what are some of those tools, I guarantee you we'd hear things like hard work. It would take education, knowledge, having mentors or coaches, other people who are experts in the area that you can collaborate with. Being focused and on target is also important. Testing, trying things out, and of course, endurance, simply sticking with something. These are all things that go into the formula of being a success. Failure is not the opposite of success. I think that oftentimes people think, oh, if I don't succeed, it means I fail. But failure is not the opposite of success if we actually go back and look at that definition. In fact, not making attempts, not trying, is really what it means to not be a success. How many of you here are familiar with the movie Rocky? Everybody, yeah, I got a big 2 hands here. Most everybody loves Rocky. It's an American classic movie, but how many of you know the real story behind it? We've got 1 hand. So who wrote the movie of Rocky?
Sylvester Stallone.
Exactly. A lot of people don't know that. So Sylvester Stallone knew as a very young boy, at a young age, that he wanted to be a movie star, a movie actor. Now, he didn't want to just be like a TV actor. He wanted to be in the movies because he wanted to inspire people. When he was born, though, he was pulled out with the forceps, and that ended up severing a nerve in his face. As a result, it caused him to talk a little bit different from other people and to look a little bit different. So anyone who's trying to get into the movie business to begin with knows that having anything like that makes you different in those ways can sometimes work against you, making it all the harder for him to accomplish his goal. But he was very determined, very focused on this. This is his passion, his hunger. He went to agency after agency in New York, auditioning, trying to get the part as an actor. And time again, he was told no, no after no. At home, it was very difficult for him because he and his wife had absolutely no money. They were starving, had no money for food, they couldn't afford heat, and in New York, you have to have heat. It gets really, really cold there. So it was a really, really challenging time for them. She kept telling him to get a job, go out there, do something different, but this is what he wanted. This was his passion, and he didn't want to get complacent. He knew if he went out there, got another job that wasn't with what he wanted to do, that he'd lose that hunger, and he felt that was the only thing he had going for him. Things were still really bad at home, though. Despite efforts he made, things got so bad, in fact, that he ended up taking his wife's jewelry and selling it. And men, there's a couple things you don't do. One of them is you don't take your wife's jewelry without her knowing and sell it. That pretty much ended their relationship. He also had this dog that he absolutely loved. Does anybody in here have a dog that you love and you feel like it's your best friend? That was how he felt. He loved this dog because he felt like the dog gave him unconditional love. But he was so desperate, he didn't feel he could take care of the dog. He went to a corner liquor store and he sold his dog, planning to sell it for $50. He was negotiated down to $25. He said that was the hardest day of his life, letting go of his best friend for $25. Shortly after that, he saw a boxing fight between Muhammad Ali and Wagner. And he watched as Muhammad Ali was just hitting this guy and pounding this guy, and the guy would get knocked down, but then he got right back up time and time again. As Sylvester watched that, he thought, you know what, that's me, I can relate to that. I've been punched down, I've been knocked up, but I'm getting back up time and time again. He was so inspired that he went home for the next 20 hours and began writing. And in those 20 hours, he wrote the story of Rocky. So now he knew what he wanted, he had his strategy, he had his plan, but that didn't mean that people were going to make it into a movie. He had to go back now to agency after agency trying to get them to accept his work. And again, he was told, no, it's too sappy. People aren't going to want to watch this movie. It's too predictable. No after no after no yet again. Well, finally, though, there was one group, and they really, really liked the story. And they came to him and said, you know what? We love your story of your play. In fact, we're going to buy it for you for $125,000. Now, you imagine someone who has no money to eat, no money to pay for their dog, they had to sell their best friend in the world, their pet, can't afford heat, and someone offers you $125,000. It's life-changing. And he said, that's phenomenal, except I have to play Rocky. I wrote this part for me. I am Rocky. And they said no. And he said, well, I'm sorry then. You can't have my script. And he walked away from it. They really wanted the script, though, so they called him back again, and they said, you know what? We really want the script. We'll give you $250,000 for you not to play Rocky in it. And he said, you know, I get it, but I'm Rocky. Without me, I'm not going to give you my script. Well, then they came back to him a third time. And this time, they offered him $325,000 for his script and for him not to play it, but that was his passion. He didn't want to let go of it. So yet again, he said no. Finally, they came back to him and they said, look, we want a superstar, we want a name. Nobody knows who you are, so we don't want to risk our money on it. But what we'll do is give you $30,000 and let you play Rocky. You know what he said? Yes, done deal right then and there. They spent $1 million to create Rocky that first year, and it grossed in that first year alone $200 million, and it became an empire. So why do I share that with you? Why are we inspired by Rocky and his story? And it's because we all get knocked down at times, but we have to stay focused. We have to know what it is we want to accomplish. We have to understand that hard work goes into anything that's worth achieving. Working hard, having a mentor, having a coach, experimenting with different things, trial and error, being focused, and endurance and experience. These are things that are going to make you a success with your marketing and growing your practice. It's going to make you a success with all the other elements online and in the real world and life as well. So that's really what we want to keep in mind. As we go forward today, you're going to hear again from a lot of different experts, a lot of different things on how to grow your practice, but keep in mind, all of those things do require hard work, strategy, a plan, but this is going to help you get that education and the tools so that you can go out and apply it. Sound good? Okay, a little more. I know it's early in the morning, but... So the first thing, though, we want to look at today is the internet. Now, I truly believe the internet is the most powerful medium out there to connect with people, unlike any force that we've seen in the past. It gives you the ability, in just a click, to connect to potential patients, to connect with existing patients, and if you're looking to grow your practice, it's a very, very important tool. The internet has fundamentally changed the way we interact and connect as people, as human beings. You can't deny that anymore, that it's shifted and it's changed everything. I think last year there was more activity on Cyber Monday with shopping than there even was on Black Friday when it came to actual spending. So if that doesn't tell you something pretty significant, I don't know what does. So what we're going to look at for the first part of the morning and in our first presentation is really the online side of things. How do you master the internet for your practice? What makes a website effective? How do you then connect with potential patients and, of course, existing patients? How do you create a brand and awareness online? And then we want to talk about what are the next steps so that when you leave here today, you can actually have a couple practical things that you can go through, check out the list, make sure you're doing so that you're going to be a success with it. So whenever you build a website, you have to keep in mind that's going to be the foundation for your online presence. There's two users you want to keep in mind. Take a minute and look at the person who's sitting to the left of you. Feel free to say hello, pat him on the back. Nice little greeting. Yeah. Look at the person on the other side of you as well. If you decide that that person is indeed a human, congratulations. That's the first user we're going to talk about, the human user. All of us who are people who go to websites, we have specific things that we need. We need to be sure that when we get to the site, we understand the content. It's easy to digest, that we can navigate the site, that when we read it, we understand what we're reading. Very important that there is a call to action on the website. When people go to this site, they know what they need to do. So that's the human user. What's going to connect well? What's going to create a good experience for them? There's a second type of user, though, you also have to keep in mind when developing your website, and that is the technology user in search engines. You want to be sure that your website is built search engine friendly. It's built in a way that the search engines are going to understand what your site's about so they can rank it. This can look in the back end as far as your content that you're putting on your website. It'll look at something that's called headers, H1, H2, H3 headers. That's just information that helps also distinguish to search engines what you're about. You can have meta descriptions. You can tag images. All of these things the search engines like because they better understand your website. The better they understand it, the more they can rank it. So when creating a site, you have to keep the human user and the search engine user in mind if you really want to have success on the foundational level. Oftentimes, the first thing people are going to do is see your website. Even if it's a referral, maybe even if it's an existing patient, they're going to go back to your website. So this is going to reflect your practice and your brand. It's your 24/7 practice is another way to look at it, and it's open nonstop. Think back to when the telephone was first invented. I guarantee you there are some people who said, no, I don't know about this, pick it up and call. My people come to me, they bring the horse over in the carriage, and we take care of business. I don't need that telephone business. Think of today how we're all so connected to our phones. Probably everyone in this room, if I had to guess, has a cell phone actually on them right now that you carry around. And if you leave your phone at home, you're going back for it. It's become a fundamental shift in how we are as people. I guarantee you if a business and practice felt like, oh, I don't need this, they either went away, went out of business, or they eventually had to adapt. And at that point, they were behind the ball, behind the curve as far as their practice goes. So the same thing is true when it comes to the internet and technology. You may think, oh, I don't do this, or my patients won't search for me that way. I'm an amazing physician, which I'm sure you are. But technology has changed, times have changed, the way people interact has changed. It's nothing against the talent and skills that you may have. It has to do with the way we as people have changed and the way we want to engage and interact. When creating a website, there are a few things you do want to keep in mind to be sure that it is effective. You want to be sure that it reflects your brand. That's very key, that you're consistent in your voice and the message that you're putting out there. You want to be sure that it's easy for people to navigate and find the information that they're looking for once they come to your site. We talked about making sure it's built for the technology user, the search engines. A lot of sites that are dated really aren't built anymore search engine friendly, so you want to be sure your site has a good back end. You want to have that clear call to action because that's very important. And you also want to be sure that your site is built responsive and mobile optimized. What that means is if somebody comes to your website on a smartphone or a tablet or even the desktop, it adjusts for the device they're using. It responds to the device they're on. just to share with you some statistics on mobile, because now there are actually more searches taking place on mobile and tablets than there are on desktops. And if your site is optimized for that, it will actually come up higher in searches. So just to share with you some of those statistics. 71% of smartphone users have searched after seeing an ad. 53% of searches purchased as a result. 70% of smartphone users utilize their device while shopping. 75% of the population uses mobile phone, yet only 33% of advertisers have mobile optimized sites. And my personal favorite, 43% of people said they'd be willing to give up beer for a month, and 36% said they'd be willing to give up chocolate if it meant they can continue searches on their mobile device. Now, I'm not a big beer drinker, but chocolate. Yeah, that's meaning something. That equals love. So that's pretty significant that people are willing to give those things up because they are so dependent now upon that mobile device and those mobile searches. So this young lady who we see up on the screen, I guarantee you, back in the 80s was all the rage. She looked the part, she had everything going, stonewash, bling, fringe, big hair, everything that you would want to be the latest and trendiest young woman of the 80s. If she were to walk in today though, I guarantee you we'd kind of give her some looks. So not the same way she might have got in the 80s. We'd kind of be like, oh, stonewashed jeans, nice, cool, you know, Halloween was last week. So there might be some concerns there. And the reason I share this with you is I think this is very true and what happens to a lot of people with their websites as well. Just because you had a website that was the latest and greatest a couple years ago does not mean it still is. Technology changes so quickly that you have to adapt. Other people are adapting too. And you need to adapt because there's a huge value associated with this. Your website is working non-stop for you. I don't know of any employees who do that for you. If you have an employee who works constantly, doesn't sleep, doesn't go on vacation, doesn't go to the bathroom, you should definitely give them a raise. They deserve it. But your website can do that for you. So invest in it and make sure that it's up to date on technology. It's designed to convert people. And keep in mind, just because it was the latest thing a couple years ago does not necessarily mean that it is today. You have to look at it as an ongoing investment and a piece of your marketing that needs to grow with your business. Another tool you can use if you're not using it already that I would certainly encourage you to use is Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a free tool and it allows you to better understand how users are engaging with your website. Engagement is becoming very, very important now in how search engines rank you. So what you can do is install this on every page you want to track of your website. So I encourage you to put it on all the pages of your site. You can then log in and you can see what keywords people are searching for that's bringing them to your site. You can see what other sites are bringing traffic. If you're advertising on other medias, this is good because you can see which of those are actually getting you traffic to your website. You can see how much time people are spending on the page. You can see what pages they're leaving, where they're exiting and going somewhere else from your website. If it's a contact page, that's not necessarily a bad thing because we can assume they called you and they're done. But if you see you're losing a lot of people on the About page or another page, you may want to make some tweaks to that. So this is just a good program to allow you to know what's happening with your website so you can adjust and improve it as needed. So just because you have this awesome website, does that mean people are going to automatically come to you? It doesn't. I always like to kind of ask people, hey, you know, when you first opened your practice, it may have been an awesome practice. You may even had the best sign. It had lights on it pointing an arrow. Here's where it's happening at. But did that necessarily get you traffic? Probably not. I doubt anyone in here was having to call the police to manage the crowd control. And the same is true with your website. Just because you've got a really great website, even if it's built search engine friendly, you're doing all the right things, but you still have to drive traffic to your website. There's a lot of ways that you can do that, but search engines are the #1 tool people use when looking for a local business. So as a result, it can be a very effective tool for you to look at and invest in search engine marketing. How many of you have ever gone to downtown Broadway in Nashville and you see all those lovely talented musicians out there playing their instruments and they've all got a little guitar case or a little money jar open? And oftentimes people walk by and you can say, oh, sorry, I don't have any cash. But if that musician was set up in front of the ATM, you can't use that excuse anymore. He's all about the location. He just saw you pull out a 20. He knows that you've got some money in there that you could give him. The same is true with search engines, because these are people who are actively searching for services that you offer, potential patients that you have. They have a need and they're searching for it at that very moment. It's the low-hanging fruit. It's the people who you can connect with the quickest and easiest, because you are in the right location. You're the guy there at the ATM. You're the guy there when they're saying, I have a need, who says, I have a solution. So I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but most people don't go past the first page in a search result. Do any of you guys find that to be true in your own search behavior? If you can't find it quickly and easily, you're going to find somebody else who's got the answer for you. 75% of people do not go past that first page of results. Just to share with you a couple of statistics so you can know how people are searching and what they're finding, 91% of people end up finding what they're looking for. So if they don't find it from you, they're going to find it from one of your competitors. 86% of people have learned something new or important when they search. 73% believe the information is trustworthy and accurate. 66% say it's unbiased, it's fair information out there. And 50% of people said they found information they didn't even know existed. They didn't even know they could find that information. Wouldn't that be great if they're saying that about you? I had this issue, didn't even know there was a solution, but I found this resource. As a result, I now have an appointment with them. That's the goal that we want to have. We want to be sure you're the one offering the solution. So when it comes to search engine marketing, there's really two main areas you can look at targeting. The first is called pay-per-click, PPC. The other is called search engine optimization, SEO. And again, this is that low-hanging fruit, the people who are already saying, I have a need, so much so that they're searching for it. You know, most people aren't searching for, let's say, root canal just for fun. They have a problem, they have a pain, you know. So these are the people who are going to be most likely to need your help as a physician. When you go to Google, you go to Bing, Yahoo, any of the search engines, it's going to look similar to this. So if we just were to kind of go through the anatomy of a search, the area you see at the top and over here on the right-hand side is what's called that paid section. Pay-per-click. When you hear PPC, that's what it's referring to as well, or search engine marketing. What's great about this area is just for your business to appear here, that's called an impression, and it doesn't cost you anything. So you get free branding just to appear. You only pay when someone clicks on it and goes to your website, and that's why it's called pay-per-click. Now, the more competitive your industry, your costs can certainly go up there, so you want to have a plan and be strategic with it, but it's a great tool to go ahead and make sure that you're coming up and being found in searches. The area below it, the area that's marked as SEO, is when people refer to organic results, they're referring to this area down here. When you hear someone talking about search engine optimization, SEO, they're talking about optimizing the website to come up high in this section. Now, what's great about this section is more people do click on it. However, there's a formula to it, and only Google knows the formula. There are things we know and we do to make sure we're doing everything possible to get it to rank, but it can be a timely process. Typically, SEO can take 3 to 6 months to really see the results. And so there's pros and cons certainly to both options. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each of these. So first, with paid search and driving traffic to it, again, the area at the top and right-hand side, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind with your strategy. It's first going to start with keyword research. So you want to be sure that you've identified the keywords that you want to go after. Now, with paid search, PPC, you can have hundreds of keywords. And a keyword isn't just one word, it can be a phrase. And people search in different ways. Just because you might type in, you know, I need an eye doctor in Nashville, somebody else may type it in, you know, I need a kids optometrist or something like that. So you want to be sure you've got a lot of different keywords there, hundreds of keywords, to account for misspellings and the different ways people are going to search. So that's part one. Do your research on your keywords. The second thing you want to do is figure out what's the right local area for you to target. You can target people based on what's called an IP address, where they're searching from, and this is really great because you can focus on your local geography. If somebody only services people within 30 miles, why do you want to invest and spend your resources on people who are, you know, 60 miles away? Yeah, you may get a few patients that drive in that far, but focus on your core. You can always go bigger. The bigger you go, like anything, it's going to cost more because now you're spending more to reach more people. So focus on your core and figure out what's going to be the right budget to spend with that and what's the right geography to spend with it. It's also very important that you have good quality, because Google is not just in the business of making money. Yes, they make money through this, but they have to be sure that they're providing information that their users want, or else people are going to start using other search engines, and they all feel this way. So one way that you can make sure that you're getting a good click-through rate, which will help your placement, better click-through rate, higher placement. A lot of the times you can get higher placement for a lower cost if your click-through rate is high. But the other thing you can do is use ad groups in your pay-per-click ads. What that means is you basically create an ad specific to a service, and then all the different keywords that are relevant to that service map to it. So let's say that maybe you are, let's say that you help with pediatrics, and you want it to have an ad specifically for people who just had an infant, or maybe you want to have a ad for vaccines. But you want to make it specific to what they're searching for, because if I'm searching for something and see something come up that is exactly what I wanted, chances are I'm going to click on it. If it's more vague, I may not. I may say, oh, well, you know what, this one I'm looking for vaccines, and this says vaccines. This just says pediatric care. Let me click on the vaccine one. So those ad groups help make it very relevant. They help your click-through rate go up, and again, of course, that helps your placement go up. Now, you don't even want to worry about doing pay-per-click if you don't have an effective website. Why spend money driving traffic if you can't convert the traffic once they get there? So that's also very important. And then, of course, it's very, very key that when you're optimizing your PPC campaigns, you focus on conversions. It's great to get traffic to your website, but ultimately you want patients. You want people who are going to pick up the phone and call you, fill out a form, email you. So I really recommend, if you're doing this or if you have someone helping you with it, that you track your phone calls and your conversions, and that's what you work on optimizing, because truly that's what's going to make the biggest impact to your practice. So just to kind of share a summary when it comes to the pay-per-click, first of all, an advertiser has more control than other areas of search marketing. You can make changes very quickly also. You only pay for clicks, not for impressions, not for it to come up in searches. And of course, you can do that geography targeting, so you can make it very specific and relevant to people and what they're looking for. Some of the challenges you may face if you're doing this is traffic does come at a cost. There is increased competition as more and more people are realizing how effective this is. More people are doing it, and so that can also inflate your costs as more people get on board with it. More people do click on organic, but of course the positive is you don't have to pay if they're not clicking on your ad. And then lastly, it can be complicated to manage this. So most of the times people do need to have outside help or have somebody internally who this is their main focus and their main job. The other type of marketing that you can do with search engines is the organic marketing. And this is, again, SEO, search engine optimization, that lower area in searches. So you also want to have a very solid strategy with this too. It begins with the keyword research. You can't have as many keywords with organic as you can have with paid search, so you really have to be strategic and figure out where you can compete because you are more limited. You then want to figure out what you can do to the actual website itself to make it look good and make it attractive to search engines. You then also want to have other sites pointing back and linking to your website, and you want these to be quality sites. That's called off-page optimization. Also now, a big part of off-page optimization is your social media. That's becoming more and more important to your overall organic presence and organic results, as well as your reputation. So those are now things that are very important to coming up well organically. And then of course, when we look at optimization and reporting for your SEO, you want to be sure that you have people spending time on your site, you have good user engagement. All of those are things that Google, the search engines, are going to look at and think is a positive thing. And if they think that their users are enjoying the experience they're having on your website, they're going to start ranking you higher so that more people can have a good experience on your website. My favorite way to think of SEO is to kind of think of it like a love story. So let's go back in time for a minute and go back to when you were in high school. And for me, let's say there's this guy who I really like. I think he's really cute. And I want to know, first of all, if he is single. So I kind of do some research on him, find out, is he single? Yes, okay, that's great. What is he like? Where does he hang out? Where does he spend his time? I'm doing my research on the guy. That's the keyword research side of SEO, figuring out what keywords you can really compete on, again, because you have to be more strategic with this than you do with the pay-per-click side of it, figuring out where you can compete. After you do your research, let's go back to my example with the guy. The next thing I want to do is make myself look nice, okay? Maybe I'll put on a cute little dress, fix my hair, brush my teeth. The dentist in here would be proud, I'm sure of that. But I want to make myself physically look appealing to him, look nice. That's the on-page optimization for your website, making your website look attractive to the search engines. This is where we basically go to your website, make sure your content is good, engaging, make sure that it's built search engine friendly. We make sure you've got meta descriptions in there, you've got the header information, images are tagged properly. What we can do to make the physical site attractive to search engines. So now I've researched the guy, I look the best that I can look to try and, hopefully attract him. The next thing I want is I want cool people going up to him and saying, you know what, Carla's pretty awesome. You should ask her out. Have you heard of this girl over here? I think that you would get along great with her. No, I don't want just anybody though, because it could work against you. If you have someone who's really mean or a dork or whatever you don't want to be associated with, and they're coming up and telling this guy that, it might work the other way. He may say, oh gosh, I don't want to go out with Carla. She hangs out with these people. If they think she's great, then I know that she's not for me. But if the cool people, the right people are saying that, he may say, you know what, you're right. I should ask her out. I should give her a chance. That is what happens with the search engines with off-page optimization. They're looking to see other sites link back and point to you. Now these have to be quality sites, because if not, it's going to totally work against you. If you have spammy sites, uncool sites that are coming back to you, it's really going to penalize you more than it is help. So it's very important that if you're building backlinks to your website in search engines, they are quality links. So that's kind of an easy way to remember the process of attracting search engines to rank your website. There were a couple updates in these recent years also with SEO. I just want to mention them because the last few years have had some of the biggest updates that we have yet to see, and they've impacted a lot of businesses. The first is Panda. This one came out in 2011, and it was really designed to target sites that didn't have great quality content. So if you had a website that had a lot of content, at one point that was kind of good because you're like, oh, I have all these pages that can get indexed. But if people weren't engaging with them, it actually started to work against you. Google wants to be sure that you have quality content that people like and are using. So that was one of the first updates that came out, and this actually refreshes every month, meaning that Google is constantly crawling your website to make sure that you've got good quality content, that you don't have information on there that people aren't using and engaging with. The next update that I want to mention is the Hummingbird update. As we do more searches and it's become such an important part of our life, people now search conversationally. They search and ask questions in Google. Particularly now with Siri and all these voice-activated searches, we just talk and we expect Google and search engines to understand what we mean. So they're working on improving this and getting better, and Hummingbird was their solution for that. This really is helping search engines better understand our conversational searches that we do in search engines. Another important one that was more recent was Pigeon. One thing that is harder with SEO is to locally target information, because people sometimes just type in physician, or I need a doctor or a chiropractor or whatever it is. And sometimes they don't put that geography descriptor like in Nashville or Franklin. So it's been much harder to compete organically. With this update, it actually is now starting to improve local searches and those organic results as well, so that it's hopefully making it more relevant to you as a user. So that's what this update was all about, making the results in the search engines, particularly this one was Google, more relevant to local searches. And then the last one that's probably been one of the most impactful on businesses, a lot of big businesses were really hit hard with this, and that is Penguin. Basically, many years ago, the way you did SEO was backlinks. And people would have link farms where you would just, throw information out there and point it back because you wanted your site to get higher in search engines. This is called spammy information, and as a result, you get penalized for it. So this is something that a lot of people got really hit hard for having these spammy backlinks. The big takeaway that Google wants us to understand when ranking your site organically is don't try and cheat the system. Focus on putting good quality content, getting engagement from your users, and you're going to be okay. If you try and find shortcuts around it though, it's going to penalize you. So that's the key thing you want to keep in mind when it comes to your SEO. So just looking at a quick summary, Some of the positives and advantages when it comes to your doing organic marketing and SEO is, first of all, traffic is free, and of course more people click on it. So those are two really big benefits to it. But some of the challenges that you are going to find is it can take a lot of labor and cost to get your site to rank there, to get experts to help you with that. Also, you can be limited to your keywords and your geography. It takes time to see results. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Typically 3 to 6 months is what we recommend people plan for if you're looking to do SEO. There's constant changes. We just looked at 4 of them a minute ago that take place in the search engines. And as a result of those changes, unless you own Google, you can't guarantee results. If anyone is saying, I absolutely am going to get you to be number 1, be cautious, look into it, because unless you own that media, you can't guarantee performance, and you have to know that it's constantly changing the information out there. So just when you're looking at success, this is kind of a metrics that I use. I'd recommend to you to be sure you're seeing success in an ROI. Make sure your phone calls are increasing, your conversions are increasing, increase position organically in your search results, time spent on your site. You want to also be sure that you're taking up more online real estate, that you're coming up in more places that you weren't before, and then of course that user engagement. Those are some key things you want to look for in your search engine marketing. Most websites only convert at a 1 to 3%. Even really good websites typically only convert at a 10% rate. So it's kind of alarming because you think I have all this traffic coming to my website, why aren't people calling? I have a good website. And it's just because that's the way searchers are. It's just the nature of the beast, if you will. Certainly some industries convert higher and some even a little bit lower. But what do you do to get back in front of those lost prospects, those people who came to your site, maybe they were getting information but they weren't quite ready to call you yet? Retargeting is a really effective tool for that. How many of you have ever gone to a site, retail stores and travels are really big about this, and you're looking at the information, but then maybe you go to another site, you're reading an article, and all of a sudden you see an ad right there, and you're like, huh, I was just looking at that, how did they know? Well, it was not magic. In fact, what happened is there was a code on their website. And when you went to that website, you left these little footprints called cookies. And most people think a cookie, chocolate and delicious. But that is not the case unless you are the business, and it is very delicious to you because you get to get back in front of that business. A lot of sites are part of what's called networks, meaning they run advertising on behalf of Google or Yahoo, and they take a piece of that per impression or per click. So you have the ability to be a part of those networks, have a visual ad that you can display based on people's behavior. So if they were recently visiting your site, you can get back in front of them on these other sites and just say, hey, don't forget about me. You were here, you were looking at us, we've still got that solution you were looking for. So this is a great tool to bring back lost prospects with that visual image. Social media is the #1 activity online. Now think for just a minute about all the different ways that we use social media, and that's pretty incredible to think that this is #1. I think this is so important that at the end, later this morning, our last presentation, we're actually going to devote it to social media and really diving into the opportunities available for you, some things you want to be aware of as physicians from a HIPAA standpoint as well. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on it right now, but it certainly is very, very important because it is that ultimate relationship marketing tool. A lot of people know social media is important. Can anyone relate to this cartoon where you feel like, oh yeah, social media, it's buzzing, I know it's important, but what do we do with that? How do we make it work for us as a business? How do I actually make sure I'm getting patients out of this? That it's, actually producing a ROI for our time and our investment in it. That's a question that we want to be sure we address with you. Like I said, we're going to go into that in detail a little bit later today. But when you look at traditional media, it takes a really big input to reach that one person who you really want to target. But with social media, you reach that right individual who's passionate about your brand. They're going to tell their friends, and when they tell their friends, it's going to all of a sudden be in front of the other friends, and it becomes exponential. It really flips that traditional pyramid upside down now with the reach. All it takes is that one individual who's passionate, and they start spreading the word, and it goes to all their friends, and it just can spiral from there in a very positive way. Some of the benefits that you get from doing social media, of course, is that relationship side of things with the customer loyalty that you're going to get with it. You're also going to have the ability to engage and listen to the people who are part of your community, which is very important. top brand awareness, it's hard to keep your name as a physician in front of people. Sometimes they don't need you except for when they're sick, or maybe once every couple of years. So how do you stay in touch with them? How do you get referrals from patients who are really happy with you? This allows you to do that and have that brand awareness. You can communicate information about your practice or other information just to position yourself as a resource. Oftentimes, when people search for a business, what comes up right underneath the website is their social media. The more online real estate you can take up, the less your competitors can take up. And everyone, Nashville's a big medical community. Everyone is very talented and, of course, wants people to be a success. But ultimately, you do want the patients coming to you. So the more you can kind of filter that and take up the space online, the less likely they're going to go somewhere else. Also, it gives you the opportunity to have that professional brand, and then, of course, have a personality. It can get really kind of sterile with doctors sometimes. You just go, you don't feel good when you go to the doctors, or you have a problem. So this gives you a platform to actually have a personality, be fun with it, not to always have to, be with people on that level. You can take it to another level in that relationship with them. You can't expect to meet the challenges today with yesterday's tools and be in business tomorrow. I think that's something that's really important to think about when it comes to your marketing, when it comes to where things are going and how we're advancing as a group, as a culture, as people, and how your patients are changing their behavior. I want to just quickly share with you this video and see if you can tell me at what part you felt like was the most uncomfortable of this experience. Has anyone ever gone to New York or any of those other cities where you see the trapeze class on the side of the street? A couple cities do that, and we had the idea, it seemed better beforehand than in the moment, that we wanted to take a trapeze class, and we walked by and saw it. And this was the experience. So if I ask you, what of that do you think was the most uncomfortable part of the experience? Any guesses?
Just the beginning.
The beginning. Yeah, it's really the beginning and letting go. That's exactly right. Because you go up there, you're standing with your toes hanging over, there's this tiny little girl who's holding you back, and you know that if you move, you're going down and you're taking her with you. You have to, at some point, let go of the bar and grab forward, so the force is pushing you forward. And then they're like, okay, tell them ready and jump. And it's scary, because at that point, you're committed. The pressure is pulling you forward, so you can't even go back and grab the bar. You're either just going to have to stay there and be uncomfortable for a long time, or you're going to have to make the leap, make the jump. And you may fall, you may miss the bar, you may dangle upside down and then miss the handoff and fall on your face. But that's why you have a strategy and you take precautions. You have a net, you're harnessed in, you do it in a way that's smart. And that's something I want to share with you, because I know a lot of physicians are newer to marketing. There are things that are going to make you uncomfortable that you haven't done before. You haven't invested, you haven't spent time, you've gotten by and been okay, so why should you, look to do it now? But it's because if not, you're going to stay in that uncomfortable position with that pressure on you, kind of leaning forward, not knowing what to do. And at some point, you just have to jump or accept your fate to always be hanging on the cliff. So here are the next steps you need to take when it comes to mastering the website. So when you leave here today, it's just 3 steps that be sure you go back, you check it off, and make sure you're doing it or you have a plan to do it. The first, make sure you have an effective website. Does it work for that human user? Do they like the information? Do they understand it? Is there a call to action? Is it built in a way that's friendly for the search engines? Go through and make sure that's the case. You have an effective website because it's your foundation online. The second thing you want to do, you want to be sure that you're driving traffic to your website. You can do this through paid search, through SEO, social media, the retargeting, traditional media. This is great if you do TV, radio, newspaper, print. Any of those can work to drive traffic to your website. But be sure that you're not just planning on people to magically find you. You have to do something to get the word out there and make sure they know you exist and you're driving that traffic to your salesperson, the website. And the last thing you want to do is execute your plan. Don't stay there looking down, knowing that you've got the bar, but you don't know what to do. Execute your plan, and if you need help, ask for it. I guarantee you it will be worth it. The investment and the time having an expert help you if that's something that you need assistance with, than trying to figure it out yourself and having a bad experience with it and walking away. So get the help if you need it, but be sure you execute. Knowledge is only as good as when it's applied, so that's something that you really want to focus on. So does anybody want to know what happened to Sylvester Stallone once he got that $30,000? First thing he decided he was going to do was buy his dog back. He went to that liquor store, and he went there for 3 days, and finally he saw the guy with his dog, and he said, I want to buy this dog back for you. That's back from you. It's my dog, and I loved him so much. And the guy said, no, it's my dog now. He's been with me for about a month. He's part of our family. And Sylvester said, okay, look, I know you paid $25, I'll give you $100. The guy said, nope, not going to happen. He goes, okay, $500. Nope, $1,000. And the guy said, no way, this dog is part of my family. So he knew he had to take massive action. He knew what he wanted. The goal was clear, but he knew he couldn't get there just doing this. You know what it ended up costing him? Out of the $30,000 that he had just received, he had to give half of it, $15,000, to this guy, and give this guy a role in Rocky the movie. In the movie, the guy makes an appearance, and the dog that's in the movie Rocky is actually Sylvester's dog, his best friend. So happy ending in the end. He was reunited with them, and of course it became this huge empire, the Rocky Empire that we know it to be now. So that's it for our first presentation in Mastering the Internet. I hope that you guys got some good information out there. We're just going to quickly get our next presenter set up. It's going to be an amazing presentation, so certainly don't go anywhere. Just sit tight, and we'll be ready to roll here in a few minutes. So thank you.